Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fitlistic Wellness Podcast, where we talk about everything holistic, health, and wellness related. So today's going to be a little bit different. If you've been following along, you know that I have guests on here pretty much every week. This week's changed, and all you're going to hear is myself. So you're welcome. I've been told I say that a lot, and I know my auntie is listening to this. I do say it a lot. I've been catching myself a lot more. Anyway, so first thing I want to say is happy 2019. Like, this is crazy. It's already 2019. I feel like 2018 went by way too fast. I feel like I'm also not the only one who thinks that. But in saying that, okay, let's get right into it. 2018 was quite the shit show. Am I right? I guess there's no one else to answer me back. This is weird. Yeah, but I don't know if anyone else feels this way. Actually, I do know that many others feel this way, but like 2018 was like one of those years full of like a lot of like challenging things. Especially me personally, I faced, wow, am I going to really get into it? I guess it can be relatable, and I don't want people to feel alone. Yeah, I'm talking to myself because this is a conversation podcast. Yeah, so I faced a lot of challenges in 2018, and it was tough. I mean, okay, I guess I'll start with the first thing. And I'm not going to mention names because, first of all, this person is irrelevant and is not in my life anymore, which I'm happy about. And it needed to happen that way. I was lied to from a person that I really liked, and I'm not gonna specify whether if it was a relationship or a friendship, but yeah, I trusted an individual, and they lied to me about everything, and I've been that type of person for a really long time who, I don't know, like I just had trust issues, and I don't really know why. Like, growing up, I didn't really have any issues with people lying to me in this sense, but I guess if you've listened to my first podcast, you guys know that I struggled with depression, not medically diagnosed, but and I had really bad eating habits, and I think it could have been definitely an eating disorder. But I always just thought people were in their heads or like behind my back just like talking shit about me constantly, because as a kid I was bullied. So I mean, when people are so mean to you and then all of a sudden aren't, you still have that running through the back of your head. And for me, I just thought everyone didn't like me. They just weren't saying it. So yeah, so this person I put a lot of trust into told a lot of really personal information. And I mean, you know, when you find someone you think you can trust, you can confide in them, right? But like, this person knew everything, like everything. So yeah, and I mean, that ended really bad, and I don't want to get into like details on how it ended because it's TMI and it's really personal. But yeah, I mean, that was really, really tough for me, and I was really upset about that for a really long time. And then what else happened? I feel like 2018 was just rough. It was rough. I mean, I got my own condo, which was really cool. Like, I guess I should really, I'm starting with the negative, and I want to like end off positive, because I want to look back at all the challenges and then kind of, I don't know, like look at the positive and been like, listen, I got through all of this, so that's all that matters, and I came out strong. But yeah, so I had a lot of that really hurt me. Like, I'm a really personable person. Like, I didn't always used to be this way, but I grew to become this way because I've just put myself in the environment to be surrounded by people who are like that. So it kind of like pushed me to be sort of like that. Like, it's really true when they say, you know, you become who you surround yourself with, and that's so true. And I can say that strongly through experience. But yeah, so what else happened in 2018? I guess after that situation I kind of like already mentioned, like it put me in this weird position to feel like super needy. Like I always felt like I needed someone, in the sense like a friendship or like whatever. But at the same time, I was a bit standoffish because of this situation, because I feel like I couldn't trust anybody. But yeah, and then I want to say June or July. Wow, this is going to be really tough for me to say, because I've never really like vocalized it publicly, but I did share like a really vulnerable post about it on Instagram. I want to say September. Anyways, so I was walking home from work late one night, and long story short, I was sexually assaulted. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. I'm getting like really emotional saying it, because like I'm emotional saying it because I'm like proud of myself that I'm not scared to share that anymore. Wow, I'm gonna cry. I'm having a conversation with myself and I'm making myself cry. Come on, Jenna, get it together. Okay, yeah, so I mean that was a really difficult, that was something I struggled with for several months, and it wasn't until like I want to say a month and a half, 2 months ago, I really started working on that, because after that I was just terrified of everything. Like I didn't trust people on the street. People who know me like know that I walk everywhere because I live downtown, and I mean, who needs a car when you live downtown? And I mean, exercise is good for you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so I was just terrified all the time, and I was still walking home late from work, and I don't know if he's listening, but if you are, you know who you are, and I really appreciate you for walking me home after work for several months after this incident happened. And yeah, I'm super grateful. My God, I'm crying again. God damn it, Jenna. Get yourself together. Yeah, so I mean, I was very terrified all the time, and when I posted that on my social media, I didn't use those words. I didn't say the words sexually assaulted. But people just knew. People just knew, and the amount. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm crying on my podcast. The amount of people who reached out to me after that was amazing. And I have to be honest, that happened to me in the beginning of the summertime, early in the summertime. And I didn't post about it till September or so, something like that. September. No, it had to have been October, because I already came back from Montreal. So it was in October. So that was not too long ago. And I mean, people will see that as that word sexually assaulted is there's no one way to experience that. I mean, I was lucky because it wasn't physical, but there's just some things, you know, you can't unsee. So that was terrifying for me. God, if my mom's listening to this, wow, I'm going to get a phone call. I never actually told my mom that this happened. Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. Don't worry about me. I'm good now. That was something that that sucked for me because I kept it in for so long. And you know what? This is a holistic wellness podcast. So if you are struggling with anything, you need to reach out. You need to reach out to somebody, because especially in situations like that, it's not something you can deal with on your own. And I'm the type of person, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still crying. I'm the type of person who kind of just bottles everything up because I feel like I don't want to burden people with my issues. And I'm like, you know what, Jenna, you got this. But you know what? I didn't have it because I had pretty much a mental breakdown around the time that I posted it. Regardless of all the support I was getting, that was it. And I actually reached out to my friend, and you guys know her. She was on the podcast, and this is why I wanted her on the podcast, because she's such an advocate for mental health, and she works in that industry. Her name's Jessica. She was the one who recommended. I actually reached out to her, and she was reaching out to me at the same time, which I thought was amazing. And, you know, you don't come across many caring people like that who, like, reach out to you and offer you support. Because I knew she was in that industry, I just was too scared to ask. But when you have someone continuously checking in on you, it felt amazing. And, you know, she recommended me go talk to someone. And luckily I had support from some individuals who helped me go. So I didn't really have to worry about it financially, because that was a little bit difficult for me at the time, at least, because I had just invested in all this podcast stuff. You know, it's not cheap. And yeah, so that was amazing. So I want to bring it back to the holistic aspect of it. Is, you know what, sometimes you just can't do it on your own. And reaching out to, I reached out to a therapist that specializes in, like, trauma, and she was amazing. I mean, if anyone in Toronto needs to speak to someone, like, definitely reach out to me. I'll send you her contact. She was amazing. And the technique she did was phenomenal. Like, it sounds kind of crazy, but it worked. Like, she made me breathe all the bad feelings, the bad energy, and all the pictures. She made me just, like, breathe it out. And I'm not saying, like, I was like and it was just gone. No, I had to go back to her for a couple of sessions, but it was phenomenal. And now I'm walking through the streets so badass. Like, no one wants to mess with me anymore, because I just feel so powerful in myself. And yeah, I just spoke about that on the podcast. But yeah, people need to know, because it's tough, and you're not alone. And I know it sounds super, super cliche to continuously say you're not alone, but really you're not. But yeah, I'm just really glad I had the support of people I did have. And then when I say my 2018 kind of sucked, it did. I mean, there were times I just didn't know how to deal, but you learn from every situation you're in. You grow from every situation you're in, and I don't regret anything that I've been through, regardless, whether it be diagnosed with a liver disease and being told you're not going to live, or like this incident that happened in the summer, or someone you put all your trust into completely lying to you about everything about them, like, and then threatening you. Yeah, I didn't mention that part. That person also threatened me, and it was terrifying. Anyways, moving on from that, like, I mean, after that incident in the summer, you know, this is just like, this year just sucks, and it wasn't even halfway finished. I just thought, like, what more is this world gonna throw at me, you know? Like, I was just struggling hard, and there were situations I had to get out of because I realized I wasn't getting treated well, regardless of that being an environment of people or a work environment. you kind of just gotta brush off your hands and get up and keep going and move forward, you know. And I'm happy. Like, I am genuinely happy in the place I am now. And you know, when they talk about like new year, new me, I didn't even need a new year to have a new me. Like, 2018 was such a year of growth. Like, oh my God, the amount of people I met. Okay, we'll get into that after the negative. Anyways, moving forward from that situation in the summertime, it gave me a lot of anxiety. Like, I had a lot of anxiety, so much. Like I said, I was terrified going wherever I went. Like, I wasn't outside in the dark by myself. And if I was, I was Ubering everywhere in the summer. Like, that's where all my money went. I was just scared. And I mean, I just didn't want to tell anybody. So I wouldn't even go out really with friends unless I knew my friends were coming to my house after, you know, because I didn't want to go home alone. But yeah, and then moving forward, I had to end a friendship. Well, not really. I didn't want to end a friendship, but it kind of ended up like that, which, I mean, I'm not the happiest about, but I mean, everything happens for a reason. I was a time when I started seeing a therapist, and I was really struggling with my mental health, and I just needed space from everyone, and I couldn't. Close friends to mine were coming to me with their problems, and I'm like, listen, I have my own shit I'm dealing with. I really can't take on anymore. So I was like such a homebody. Like, I wouldn't really do anything. I would go to work, I would come home, and that was it. And I mean, that's when I really started consuming cannabis a lot more than I had in the past, because the anxiety was so bad. I would leave work and I would light up a joint and walk home because I was so anxious. It was ridiculous. And I mean, once October came, it didn't really matter anymore. But like, even before then, they weren't really strict in Toronto, but maybe it was frowned upon, but whatever. I mean, you gotta do for your health, regardless of people judging me. Because people judging me was the least of my worries. I mean, come on. Even recently, I was just dealing with a lot of issues like self-doubt, and I just kind of had another mental breakdown. It was a lot, and I think that's what, I want to say that's almost why I didn't post. I took a break from social media for a week. I didn't do a podcast for a week. I was just, but then, you know what? The universe brings people into your life at the exact time you need them. And I do not say that lightly. And this is where we get into the positive-ish, guys. Don't worry. This podcast is going to end off in a good note. Yeah. So, I mean, throughout the year, I've had some really amazing friendships. Like, I've grown really close to certain people. I've met certain people at just the right time. In regards to that, like, you let go of certain relationships. For example, that really toxic one that ended really badly at the beginning of the year, that I let go. When the assault happened in the summertime, I remember not telling anyone. I told like one person at the time, and that was because this person walked me home, and I had to explain. Like, I felt like I needed to because it was important. And then a couple weeks later, someone I've been really close to for a really long time, I told them about it. Because I had gotten really upset because I was waiting outside in the dark for this individual, and I was like starting to get really bad anxiety because I'm like looking around. Like, anyways, I was pretty much having an inward anxiety attack. But anyways, yeah, so I told this person, and this person was so supportive of me. They were like, I would kill someone for you. And I'm like, wow, first of all, let's not go killing people. But the thought is what counts, right? So I also learned this year who my true people are. I'm not even going to say my friends, because for the most part, I consider the people I surround myself like family, because like there's no negative energy. And I mean, even if there's some sort of like disagreement or argument, there's always like, it always ends off well. People are very understanding. And yeah, I mean, so moving forward for that, like I said, I ended a friendship. I didn't mean to, but I accidentally ended a friendship. I couldn't deal with any more baggage, you know? And sometimes you just need to say no, which I struggle with quite often, actually. I don't like saying no to people because I feel like I'm disappointing them. But you know what? Sometimes you got to realize what's best for yourself. So now what I do is, before I say yes to anything, I ask myself, Jenna, what's best for you? You know? And I think that's what more people have to start doing. You have to start being more selfish. And I mean, it's not even selfish when you're doing it for yourself, for your own mental health, for your own personal gain, you know what I mean? But it's not in a negative way. And I mean, I feel like there's still some people out there who might look at it as a negative thing. And I think that's why this very close friendship I had ended, because we weren't on the same page about that. And it really hurt that person. And I'm the type of person to never want to hurt anybody. Regardless of what they do to me, I never want to hurt anybody, especially close friends of mine, you know? Like, I would never want to do that. So I just needed to step back because there was nothing more I can do, and this person didn't understand. So, I mean, it was very emotionally draining for me at that point, because I was already dealing with my own ish, and I'm like, I mean, if a friendship is meant to be, it'll be, right? Like, there's only so much you can do. And in any sort of relationship, I mean, like, even if it's family, like, if they're not supportive of you, or they're like talking down about you, you know, you got to do what's best for you sometimes. Like, ask yourself, so and so blank, whatever your name is. For me, Jenna, is this what's best for you? In all aspects, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything like that. And that's where the holistic aspect gets brought in, because I feel like sometimes, for myself, maybe other people are like this, sometimes you care too much about people. You know what I mean? And I mean, for me, that was me being clingy. I was very clingy because I'm like, this person might doubt the fact that I care about them as a person, regardless if it's a friend, a relationship, a family member. Like, you know what I mean? You become clingy because you feel like, but you know what? Most of the time, people who don't reach out to you as often, or you don't see as often, it's because they know that they don't need to see you every day to know they care. And I truly, truly value those friendships or relationships I have with people that, like, you could go months without talking, and then the next time you see them, like, it'll be as if you've seen them the day before. Like, you're cracking jokes, you're just like catching up on life, you're hanging out, you're watching Netflix, you're whatever you're doing, you're going to the gym, you're like, like, relationships like that is what I truly value the most. And that's what I learned this 2018. I mean, sure, like I said before, there was a lot of shitty stuff that I've had to deal with this past year. But the amount of growth, what I've learned about myself and what I need as a person and what Jenna needs, and it was all worth it. Regardless of the situation, it was all worth it. And I can't stress enough the fact that regardless how your year went, good or bad, I know every single person listening to this podcast right now learned something about themselves and ran with it. And I mean, if you didn't, let's do that for 2019 and years to come. Because I mean, you can't know everything and you can't always be the best at everything, but there's always room to learn and grow. So if 2018 didn't teach you anything, I challenge you to reflect on the negative but not dwell on it. Just reflect on the negative situations like I've just did right now, whether it be to a friend or to yourself in the mirror. Literally, as I'm talking right now in this podcast, I am looking at myself in the mirror, because then I feel like I'm talking to someone, but I'm not really. I'm such a weirdo. I know. But yeah, I mean, I challenge you to look back on the negative and look where you are now. Look how far you came. You did it. And I feel like a lot of people need to hear this, because we don't always find the good out of the bad. And I was that person who would always dwell on the bad. I used to be that person, and it made me so miserable. And that is so not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. And I mean, you've heard it on the podcast before, like physical and mental are so intertwined, like they work synergistically. If you're dwelling on negative is just going to keep happening. Also, if you're dwelling on the negative, you're going to expect negative things to happen. And that's when negative things continue to happen, and you just dig yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in this hole. But for me, looking back, seeing all these things that I've dealt with and where I am now, let's look at the positive for a second. What did I accomplish this year? Well, let's start with the first thing. The earliest thing, actually, was I got my own condo. A lot of people don't think that's a huge deal. I was 22, and I got myself a condo in downtown Toronto on my own. My own credit, my own real estate agent. But yeah, like that was even a struggle in itself. I was very stressed out. Oh my God, I was extremely stressed out about that, because I didn't think I would get anything. And if y'all know Toronto, you know it's super expensive, let alone downtown Toronto. And the landlords down here are tough because high demand on everything. Anyways, moving forward from that, a couple weeks later, I had officially graduated as a certified nutritional practitioner, CNP, that's what it stands for, from the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. I feel like I was already working with a handful of clients before I had finished, and they were well aware that I hadn't completely finished. And I told every single one of them I had a mentor watching over what I did, so I would get it looked at before I sent it to them. And that mentor is still my mentor today. Like I still check in, and sometimes I'll have questions. Like I said, I don't know everything, and you can always have that one person who will know, or who will tell you the truth. Like, look it up. That's what some people need sometimes, or like, you should know this. We learned about this, or like things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I finished my classes in the middle of January, but the ceremony wasn't until April, so I didn't technically get a diploma till April. Moving forward from that, I continued to see clients. I've had amazing feedback from my clients. Like, I've cried several times because people tell me that I've changed their life. And I'm making myself cry because I'm proud of myself. Like, that's not who I used to be, but now I just let your emotions fly, like it's not good to bottle things up. So like I've had really good feedback, like testimonials from my clients just telling me like, wow, this is amazing, or like I've been on this medication for like so and so amount of years, and now I don't have to be on anymore. I'm like, that's amazing. See, because I remember how I felt when I got off medication. It feels so good to be able to be well without all this extra chemical stuff in your body. What else did I do this year? I mean, I started a podcast. That's pretty cool. It's funny because I had all my equipment, like, I want to say 2 months before I even recorded anything, because I wanted to have all the things in front of me for it to seem real. 'Cause I didn't want to start scheduling podcasts with people before I, first figured out how to use all of this, or, like, seeing it as motivation was phenomenal. So that was amazing. I started my own podcast. I had my website finally launched. Currently working on the blog. I have 1 post up. There's going to be more coming in this new year. The biggest thing I took out of 2018 and how I grew, I think I would say, is that choose who you surround yourself with wisely. Don't ever depend on anyone else but yourself for happiness. And I can't stress that enough, because, like I said, I used to be very, very clingy to certain people because I was so insecure about how they felt, in the sense that they wouldn't think I cared about them if I hadn't reached out all the time. But some people are actually grinding and doing their shit too. And you know what? I've actually turned into one of those people a lot of the time. If y'all don't reach out to me, you probably won't hear from me for a while. And that's not something to take personal. And I mean, when people did that to me, I would take it personal. But I've learned to understand that mindset of focus. And that's what this year of accomplishments really took. Because I had to seriously focus. I had to hustle. And I'm still continuing to do that. Like, my lifestyle has not changed since I finished school, like from January 2018 till even now. And it'll probably continue for the next several years, because every time you reach your goal, you set a new one. My first goal was like, let me get a condo. I need to be by myself. I need my own space. Then I can focus, and I can truly, truly focus and get shit done. And that's what I did. As soon as I got my place, that's when I started to really, really grind things out, hustle. I mean, my whole brand, let's go back to this. My whole brand started on Instagram. Oh, I'm going to give you a little bit of history on Fitlistic Jenna, okay? Give you a little history lesson here. So I started my Instagram account, I want to say 2014, 2015, something crazy long ago like that. I guess it's only been 5 years, 4 years, 5 years now. Funny enough, it started as a different name. A friend of mine actually helped me with the idea of the Fitlistic, but the old name used to be Thrive_nutrition. And if you look back on, if you go on my Instagram page, Fitlistic Jenna, go on it right now, go to my tagged content, like people who've tagged me, scroll all the way down. People tagged me as Thrive Nutrition. When it was Thrive Nutrition, it was total garbage. Like, the content wasn't, the content was terrible. So I didn't know how to edit photos. I didn't know anything about taking photos. I don't edit my photos overly. I just fix the lighting and whatnot. And if I have a pimple, I cover it, because I don't really get pimples as much anymore. And that's not me. Pimples do not define me. So I changed the name. I'm like, I need a better name. This one's not working. And a good friend of mine really, really, really helped me with my Instagram. And I cannot thank him enough. A lot of people even now still don't understand why I'm always on my phone. Well, I'm replying to messages. I'm replying to comments. I'm replying to my email. And I'm looking at articles that have to do with nutrition, because I want to stay on the top of these things, So I had that one person helping me with my Instagram. It was amazing. And then come a friend of mine, I was like, I need a new name for this. I don't like it. It needs to be a better branded name. Like, I need a good branded name. And I want my name to be in it. She helped me come up with Fitlistic, because fitness and holistic nutrition combine the two things, and there you go, Fitlistic Jenna. That's how I came to be. But then it turned into my podcast, Fitlistic Wellness. I didn't want it to be my name as my podcast, because I figured, listen, I'm going to have lots of guests on it, and I don't want it to be strictly about me, you know? Like, I don't even really introduce myself unless I'm doing a podcast by myself, like I am right now, and like on my first episode. Like I said earlier, before I run this huge rant about my brand, you have to look back at your accomplishments and see where you started, and then look at where you are now and be like, wow, I did it. And that is what will continue to give you the motivation. Another thing I want to mention, I mean, we're getting deep into the podcast now. If you're still listening, thank you. I wanted to mention one more thing, a couple more things before I end off this podcast, is that another couple things that I really started focusing on this year was goal setting. And like I said earlier, really focusing on myself, my brand. And at this point right now, I'm so focused in it that like I don't even want to do anything else. And a lot of people work to live, but I want to be that type of person who lives life and their life is their work. And that's something my mentor even told me. I was like, you get to travel a lot. That's amazing. Like, my life is my work, and my work is my life, and I love it like that. And ever since I heard that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And that's kind of what I started focusing my goals towards. Like, I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to continue learning, to continue growing, continue studying, and teaching people on the way. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I started a podcast. I want everyone to be able to access information and experiences and not have to worry that stress about, oh my God, can I afford to see this person? And some people do, and I think that's amazing. But like, I really love everyone who listens to my podcast. Like, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. And I mean, currently, and I'm going to be super honest with y'all, I make $0 from this podcast, but I'm so passionate about it that like, whatever happens. I know that things are going to work out in the end. So goal setting is huge. Write down things you want to do. Make a list, check them off, even small things of the day. I remember someone asked me, what's one thing that you really accomplished today? And I was like, I thought about it for about 10 seconds before I said, well, I showed up to work. I showed up to work on time. And I mean, that morning I was really, really tired. And I think it was because I was editing the podcast super late, because I had messed something up and I couldn't figure out how to change something about it. So I was up really late. So I slept for maybe 2-3 hours, and I woke up really late, and I was pretty much running to work that morning. And you know what? I went on time, and that was small goal. And you know what? Still a goal. And you have to just keep creating them throughout the day, whether it be a small goal like going to work on time, or hitting a deadline, or meeting up with a friend and showing up on time, or whatever. Goal setting, organization, and focus. I feel like something else I had mentioned before, and now I forgot. But I can't remember, and there's no one sitting across this table to remind me. So going into this new year, I want everyone to look back on the year, their negatives, positives, mostly positives, but also don't forget the negative things that happen, because that's the reason, and that was the path that got you to where you are now. had that not happened, you wouldn't be as strong as you are today, and you wouldn't be where you are today at all. It would be a whole different situation, and I can't be grateful enough. I think that's a great spot to end the podcast, so thank you guys so much for listening. And I want to remind you that if you're struggling with something, remember that it's only temporary. You're going to get through this, and reach out for help if you need it, because can't do everything alone. I mean, I don't really have any plugs to throw at you except my own. So here we go. You can find me at Fitlistic Jenna on Instagram. You can also find me on my website at www.fitlisticjenna.com. There's my blog on there too. You're obviously listening to the podcast, so you know where to find it. If you like it, give it a nice star rating. Give it a thumbs up if you're listening to it on YouTube. I don't know how Spotify works, but I'm sure you can give things ratings on there too. Share it with your friends if you like it. Let me know if there's ever anyone you want me to have as a guest on here. If you want to be a guest, let's work it out and not have me talk to myself, because this is a little bit uncomfortable, but it needed to happen, and I'm glad I did this. It's kind of a weight off my shoulder too. Anyways, thank you again so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. Have a good rest of your week. Next episode comes out next week, Friday.